He restored my soul.
Yeah.
Serious times.
Give it up for the man. Give it up for the man. That's what we're talking about. Real things.
Serious, right? Right, the vibes coming in nice. Emancipation, free yourself. DJ, let me go. Always had the next one up, my brother. All I know. Ethan, come again, man. Wonder vibes inside of your side, emancipation. One total boy. Bump with the man, Mr. DJ, man. Don't chunks, I know. Put on the edge, put on the edge. Yeah, I understand. Over. On the edge. I and I, all I know. I and I, all I say. I and I reconsider. I and I see up for that. Christopher Columbus is a what? Christopher, come to you, play it again, man. I want to hear them for the ready know it's truth, All they know it's truth. Discover what? You can discover a place of people living there. Madness. I and I, all I know. I and I, all I say. I and I reconsider. I and I see up for that. Christopher Columbus is a what?
Sure.
Christopher Columbus is a what?
Oh, no.
He ain't saying how. He's the first one who discovered Tobago along with Lion Robinson Crusoe. I forget he. What about the Yamawak Indian? And a few black men who was wrong here before them. The Indians couldn't last long. Oh, you see your size, you know? We're talking about AR-15 and T-19 tonight. Yeah. Nice. I and I longing to go home. In a red, green and gold road. Mr. Marvin, come and Roxborough tonight. I'm telling you, I'm giving you this child life. Come on, the teachers of Israel. Come on, the teachers of Israel. Come on, the teachers of Israel. Out of the Golania. A holy family song, a holy family song. I'm feasting now. Christopher Columbus is a damn-blasted liar. Christopher, you see, damn-blasted liar. Christopher Columbus, I tell you, he's a liar. Easy, man. No, don't pull it off because then leave it right and just take it off. Easy. Do it next song, man. The night is education, entertainment. It will never have to be the way I see. He's going to come again, Mr. D. Come on, come on, come on,
yeah, bring the problem.
Yeah.
Bring it.
Kindly move straight up to both yard drummers. Nice flambeau procession, live and in living color. Keep the rhythm, keep the voices going. You're looking good, doing good. Looking good, doing good, doing good. Right up to the boat yard, you're looking nice. Bamboo in the back. Flambeaus in front. Looking good, looking good. Bamboo, flambeau. Roxborough folk performers presentation. time, 1832, it's about an hour to go. Slaves were on the streets, eager to be freed from the shackles of massa to a new era and dispensation of freedom. There was jubilation from every plantation. Heading to the walls of the churches to give thanks and praise. This is for the freedom. Abolitionists like Clarkson, Wilberforce, Fox, champions of the abolition movement. Prior to that, the last sailing ship in 1807, Kitty's Amelia, would have sailed from England on the Middle Passage, and that was the last slave ship that did that journey, and that type of journey coming out of Liverpool, Kitty's Amelia. Changes in the way slaves operated at that particular time. Today we are here to remember those occasions. In a short while I'll be handing you back to Mr. Lewis, an international performer who knows how to entertain. He does his craft well. Very professional, international man. Lived in Barbados for a while. They wanted to keep him there, but we had to tell him to come back home. Home is home, someone said in the audience. Home is home. We had to tell them we need our Marvin at home. And he's here to deliver this evening. He's here to entertain and inform us. The drummers, the flambeau procession, the tambour bamboo dancers, they will be coming back into our space here to entertain us. And for us to go through some of the paces of emancipation. Now back to Mr. Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. John. Is there anybody time? Right. It should never have to be the way I see this world running. It should never have to be, cause now every man's cup is full with hate and overflowing. Father, I know things are going wrong, yeah, wickeder than before. I say I thought say we could have run things, but it now looks so anymore. No. Come down, Father, come down, yeah. Come down, Father, come down, yeah. I beg you, come down, Father, come down, yeah. Come down, Father, come down. From my heart, I know that you won't let your chosen people suffer. I know you will never let us down. No, no, no. Many times I could have picked up a gun, I could have go out the road and play a big jump. It's no fun, no. Sure, it ain't no fun. Cause I think if another man did the same, then you know no bullet could fall like rain. It's no fun, no. Zombie ain't no fun.
Somebody say yeah, yeah. I said somebody say yeah, yeah. I like that section down there. Good night to you all down here. Yeah, we're going to look at teething, but you know. So here we're going on. Give me the last tune. Give me the last tune. W. Right? I want to do this one for everybody who like goodness, everybody who like nice. Everybody who want to play a part, WW. Right? I want to do this one for everybody who like goodness, everybody who like nice. Right, so the computer rewiring, well, they say give a commercial. Pigs in the morning, pigs in the evening, cooks in the night time too. You can eat cakes with butter, eat it with sugar, eat it with anything too. While we wait for the computer to pick back up, I say the vibes it will never stop. The band just go on and just do a thing, and Marvin come and he start to sing. I say the gold feel a little cold, but that's not stopping. It's emancipation and we gon' free ourselves. Giant you please. That's how we do it. So we go, it's Roxborough, full performers, emancipation vibes we visited. That's something like that. That's something, yeah. And you know we go fit in this world. I say we sending all the vibes to all the boys and girls. I say you man over the blue dance, I say you start to drink. I like how we make me feel it. Yeah, emancipation vibes. DJ, you ready for Marvin to finish it? Come alive. So I'm gonna give all you an original. Whenever I hear a singer say an original, it means I sang this song originally alongside my brother Nigel. The year was 1998, and of course, emancipation. We only do this one for people with bad vibes, because we are not nobody with bad vibes on the inside. And if you have bad vibes on the inside, this will go up. Original, bus track. Yeah, is it again? Yeah. All right. So Mr. Marvin and you back over to the MC. Right. Much love is emancipation. Right. We not let this vibe stop us. We will keep the energy. We will keep the flow, and we will beat this vibes. All right. Love you.
Thank you very much, Marvin Lewis. Let's hear it, crowd. Let's hear it for Marvin Lewis. Let's hear it, put your hands together. That's Marvin Lewis live at the Roxborough Courtyard. Well done, Marvin, well done, well done. I can see that you had fun. Yes, you enjoyed it. Tonight we're here because of Roxborough folk performers. Can you put your hands together too for Mr. and Mrs. Toppin for the hard work that they would have put into this event? So let's hear it for the Toppins, please. Well done, well done, well done. The vibe, the energy of emancipation being relived here at the Roxborough Courtyard. I would like to read the proclamation that was read on the 31st of July 1834. Her Majesty Queen Victoria decrees all slaves of the British Empire, property of the Crown, chattels of the West Indies and chattels of South Africa shall, from this night, the 31st of July 1834, at midnight, become free men, free women, and free children. Here ends the decree from Her Majesty Queen Victoria. This was the vibe on that night when slaves became free at midnight. And we are reliving this moment in our little space here at Roxborough. Compliments the champion band, the champion choir, Roxborough folk performers. Compliments the champion band, the champion choir. But what happened after emancipation? After the individuals became free men and free women, I can't call them slaves again after midnight. What was the social impact of their freedom? They were no longer compelled to work on massive plantations. They had options. But were the options viable? How would they treat with these options? But were the options viable? And there were serious concerns. But were the options viable? And there were serious concerns. Before I get into that, I must commend here, I call him Ambassador. His name is Tobago Crusoe. He's not here with us, but he sent me a document from England. Few of us are in possession of that document, and I'm available to give you copies. The list of estates in Tobago and the number of slaves thereon in 1834. This inventory was directed by the Crown in order to compensate owners for freeing slaves from the plantations on the 1st of August, 1834. They were paid £233,875 sterling in compensation. At emancipation, there were 11,500 slaves in Tobago. This is breaking news. This is genuine, authentic information coming from the library in the UK. The number of slaves on the estates and the names of the estates in Tobago. If I look at Roxborough, I see there were 166 slaves. If I look at Lake Oto, the number is huge. Lake Oto, 436 slaves, the biggest slave population in Tobago at that time. Charlottesville, 222 slaves. Bacolet, 258 slaves. Belgarden, I think Carl, I think is in the audience. Belgarden, 80 slaves. Belmont, 111 slaves. Betsy's Hope, 215 slaves. Belgarden, 80 slaves. Burley Castle, 108 slaves. Corridor Hall, 33 slaves. Canby, 96 slaves. Castara, 328 slaves. Concordia, 109 slaves. Bradley, 79 slaves. And the list goes on right up to Woodlands. Pembroke. Is there anyone in the house of Pembroke here tonight? Any Pembrokean? Pembroke, 107 slaves. This information was sent to me by, I call him Ambassador Bacchus. He lives in the UK, but his heart is always in Tobago. He sent for me via WhatsApp that was pulled out from the library in the UK, one of the libraries. That's where most of our history still lies. Most of the history, intimate history of our peoples are lodged in the UK. I'm sure if you go into the library in Scarborough, you can't get this information. You have Highlands, 123 slaves. Kilgwin, 126 slaves. And all the slave masters were paid a huge fat sum of £233,875 sterling in compensation. What did the slaves get? Nothing. Not 1 cent was given to a slave. He got his freedom in empty pockets. Empty pockets. Walk in the streets. Massa collected this huge sum. That's why Peter Tosh sang Equal Rights and Justice. Everyone's crying out for peace. Peter Tosh says, all he wants, equal rights and justice. Our reggae singers, our calypsonians, they cry out for years about the injustices that happened in the 19th century. Unforgettable era our foreparents lived in. And cried. And were whipped. And were thrown out to enjoy freedom, which they could not enjoy. We are hoping that we as Africans stand up for our rights wherever we live, wherever we work, wherever we socialize, wherever we communicate. Let's not ever let this kind of injustice enter our shores again at no time. That's why Makanda Daga stood up for what he stood up for. And Kwame Ture stood up for what he stood up for in America. Stephen Biko died. And that's why the book Kunta Kinte Roots was written. They were coming from the bowels of the writer. In Makanda Daga and Black Power, if you put your hand up and you say Black Power, power to the people, you're arrested. You are arrested for saying power to the people. At Macandal in 1970, walked the streets so that the African race could be allowed to work in the banks. Nelson Mandela went to prison in South Africa, Robben Island. We have strong African leaders. Some have passed. Some are still around living, and they are creating history. We got to collectively lift ourselves up and take the younger ones with us. Teach them, give them the discipline that they need to go through life. Obedience, very important. I know that some young men in Trinidad, I don't know about Tobago, went into the barracks to receive training in the army, in the police, and because they lacked obedience, when the sergeant called you to come to attention and you salute and said, "Sir," at home, my mommy called these troops. You can't do that in the army. You can't do that in the military. You have to obey. We grew up with obedience. Our generation, some of us are, my age group, they are under the tents there, they are out there. But there's a change in the way young people operate now. But we have to look at ourselves, pull our socks up, knowing where we have come from. And there's one statement that says, if you don't know where you have come from, you don't know where you're going. A revolutionary statement. If we don't know where we have come from, we don't know where we are going. But you know where you have come from tonight. And that's why we are here. That's why we are here to go through the footsteps of emancipation. Very, very important. A very sensitive period of our history that we as Africans would never forget. After Kitty's Amelia left and slaves were freed, the next ship to enter our shores was the Fatah al-Razak. And they came in here happy, singing, with food, drinks, promises to get land, return tickets to go back to India. We came through the Middle Passage, our ancestors. Flesh for fishes in the sea. A different dynamic all entirely. The Fatah al-Razak, Kitty's Amelia, and other ships that came down through the Middle Passage. We have to wake up and understand, communicate with families when we are home, communicate with the young ones. And I heard the head of the Roxborough Police Youth Group, I think he's Assistant Commissioner, encourage youths to join groups, not gangs. Encourage the young people to join groups, not gangs. Africans, you got to wake up. You have to know if there are guns in the homes. You have to be no-nonsense parents. To have no-nonsense children. Let them know consequences. You go for a job, you send them out for a job, they look through their Facebook page and they see everything. And they think it's secret. It's not the best kept secret. When he went for the interview, up to now, they call him for the job, man. And boy, just be home nice as ever. Check his Facebook page, check her Facebook page. What is the signal? What are the signals that the Facebook page is sending out? Africans. I cannot tell the Prime Minister, be careful of the movies you're showing us here. Told us to be careful. Sometimes you see things happen in Trinidad, you wonder if it's in Hollywood. Live! Drummers are coming back. You have to meet and greet our drummers and Tambu Bambu dancers. As a mark of respect, we have to stand when they enter the courtyard. Stop it, are they coming now? Are they coming? Enter the courtyard, please. Drive into the courtyard. Right. Into the courtyard. Into the courtyard, into the courtyard. Let us stand, please. Let us please stand. Let us stand for those who have walked the streets tonight. Let us stand as a mark of respect. Freedom, 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 freedom. Freedom, 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 freedom. A mark of respect, let us stand. Roxborough performance presentation. Freedom, 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 What an effort as a dancer! Roxborough performance presentation. Now move on, move. Drummers, action. All those at home, come on, get out. Come out to the front. Jump out up in the air. Jump out up in the air. Up in the air. Jump out up in the air. Up in the air with the jumbo. Up in the air. Nice. Up low. Go. Okay, go. Come down. very much for this effort. You have done well. You have walked the streets. You have walked the footsteps of freedom. You have reminded us intimately of what emancipation is all about. Thank you very much, each and every one of you. I will now call on Officer Hazel Hollis. Hollis, what's your rank? ACP Hollis, to say some words of wisdom to you guys. So give a round of applause, give your audience now. Let's put your hands together for ACP Hollis, please. Thank you.
Good evening, Roxborough. I want to take this opportunity to acknowledge the Chief Secretary, Tobago House of Assembly, Honorable Farley Augustine. I recognize Secretary Faith Brebner Israel. I recognize other secretaries and assistant secretaries in the Tobago House of Assembly. Specially invited guests, members from the Roxborough Folk Performing Company led by Ms. Valena Allen Pilgrim and Mr. Toppin. Specially invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. Other special invited performers. Of course, the performing groups coming from Belgarden, coming from Charlottesville, coming from Roxborough, we acknowledge and welcome you. This evening is a very symbolic evening as we celebrate emancipation. And we are just, tonight is just an understanding as to all of us as to why are we here and why are we celebrating this Emancipation Day celebration. And briefly, we are here because 188 years ago we were freed from the shackles of slavery. When the proclamation was read by the Queen Victoria to free Africans from the shackles of slavery. And for this, we were no longer considered as slaves. But the question is, to many of us as we celebrate emancipation as a people of African descent, we need to truly ask ourselves, are we truly emancipated from those shackles? And therefore, the big question as African people is for us to think about our self-development. Think about our personal development. Think about our spiritual development. Search ourselves in finding, are we really free? As we celebrate this evening, it is critical that we focus on these areas of development to ensure that we are truly free. People, we are sometimes of African descent, best known to be, make news in the media for some of the most negative things that we can come across. And I speak to that of gang and criminalities. But of course, we need to emancipate ourselves from that. We need to emancipate ourselves from that mental slavery. That is what we can best known for. Tonight's celebration signals that we in Tobago, we in the communities of Tobago East, I'm certainly walking that road to emancipation. Because when we look around and we see the fact that we are no longer carrying those burdens of the slave master with the whip on the sugar plantation that force us to work for the white man, we can say that we are truly emancipated. When we see young people as entrepreneurs throughout the length and breadth of this island continue to focus in doing something to build themselves, to find an honest dollar, speak to emancipation. When we see leadership coming from the young and not so young, leading our destination, leading all spheres of all offices as high as it can be, we can truly say that we are part of the emancipation celebration. And therefore, I want to ask all of us this evening that our focus ought to be one in which we start searching ourselves. Emancipation doesn't mean only a one-day celebration as we celebrate this day alone. But we need as a people to unite and band together to ensure that we develop ourselves, to ensure that we continue to promote the good and welfare of the people from the African diaspora. Many of us at times don't consider ourselves African. You ask us where we come from and we say we come from Tobago or we come from Trinbago. But we have to learn tonight, continue to remember that we are from the African diaspora. And we should not in any way deter our set out of Africa. And therefore, I want to thank all of us here tonight who consider ourselves to be part of this celebration as we continue to celebrate. But as we continue to celebrate, let us continue to remember that this is not a one-day show. This is not a one-day event. This is about uniting. This is about ensuring that the race of the African people continue to stand and band together. United we stand, divided we fall. And for this, I want to congratulate the Roxborough Folk Performing Company and all the other groups who have participated in ensuring that we continue to ensure that this event continue to be a calendar event in recognizing Emancipation Day in Tobago East. And for that, I say thank you and continue to live together in peace and love and unity in one accord. I thank you.
Thank you very much, ASP Hollis. Let's hear it for the ASP. Please put your hands together, please. Let's hear it for him. Thank you. And he has reminded us that this must not be a one-day event. We need to be reminded regularly that we are an emancipated people. Thank you very much, sir. Next, I'm calling to the microphone the Assistant Secretary of Tourism, Culture, Antiquities, and the Transport. Can you give her a round of applause, please? A warm round of applause as she comes to the mic, please. Thank you very much. Looking beautiful in her African outfit. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a pleasure for me to be here. It is a pleasure to be here with the Roxborough Folk Performing Group. They are an example of what our culture should embody. We know that it is a struggle to keep our cultural art form alive. And I'm happy that Emancipation Day has brought out this group and environment the streets of Roxborough. So from a cultural perspective, we know that if we allow our culture to die, our history to be distorted, what we pass to our next generation will not be authentic. And we need that authenticity so that our cultural heritage can be passed on. And I dare say we must remember where we come from in order to chart our course forward. So, my humble opinion to you guys is continue what you are doing, continue the hard work, be an example to all of Tobago. There's no place I would rather be tonight than to be in Roxborough with the Roxborough Performing Company. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Assistant Secretary, for your kind words. We surely appreciate your presence here this evening. Before I call this most senior person in the audience tonight, I would just like to read the proclamation that was read to the slaves on the night of the 31st of July, 1834, once more. Hear ye, Her Majesty Queen Victoria decrees, all slaves of the British Empire, property of the Crown, chattels of the West Indies, and chattels of South Africa, shall from this night, the 31st of July, 1834, at midnight, become free men, free women, and free children. Hear ye. Thank you. I now call to the microphone the Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly, Mr. Farley, Augustine. Can you give him a round of applause, please? The man who speaks well and thinks well. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. Pleasant night to Secretary Dr. B. Israel, Assistant Secretary Morrison, Mr. Hazel, Mrs. Allen Toppin, and members of the Roxborough Heritage Performers, folk performers, and I must admit that it was only sometime this morning I heard about this event. Someone showed me a flyer, and I said, well, I have to come back up the road. You know, today was Harvest Payside, then Tongue, and I said, I'm coming back up because I felt it absolutely important 188 years later that we find some time out, even at midnight, to celebrate our freedom. Because 188 years ago, what we have now, we did not have then. And we have come a very long way. The first thing we must do is express gratitude and be grateful, because things could have been worse for us. 188 years later, we have the benefit of free education for most of our people. 188 years later, we have all kind of religion. In fact, every Monday morning somebody opening a new church. 188 years later, you have freedom of movement. 188 years later, the people that work in banks like this and that control our civil service and our government look like you and me and not like someone else. 188 years later, we have a lot to be thankful for. But 188 years later, we still have a long way to go. And we have some ills that require some correcting. And ACP Hazel spoke about those things. Because what does it mean to be free? Does freedom mean that we have the right to just do what we want, to destroy ourselves and to destroy each other? Or does freedom comes with great responsibility? And I submit that freedom comes with significant responsibility, and we have to take responsibility for each other's well-being and for the development of our society. So 188 years later, we still have some mental shackles to get rid of. 188 years later, we still as a community need to understand what it means to come together. And let me say this even at the risk of being criticized tomorrow. 188 years later, those of us who are of African descent, if you don't know what that means, for those of us who are black, we need to understand what unity means and understand what it means to work together and help each other up. 188 years later, it cannot be right and it cannot be counted as success that our community of black people in this country are among some of the lowest in terms of income earners, in terms of educational success, in terms of leadership success. It means that we have failed ourselves and we have to do better. And so on this night, 2 minutes to midnight, 2 minutes towards celebrating that proclamation that came 188 years ago in this spot, in this area. It is a cause for some introspection, a cause for us to stop and think about how we can do better. 188 years later, if we still find ourselves in a place where we shun our young people because of their hairstyle, and the children still can't go to school with afros, and they don't want cane rows, then we have not gone far enough. We still have some ways to go. But freedom is never a destination. It is always a journey. So keep at and keep working hard. Keep at and keep at it, because it can only get better with hard work and with unity among our community. And so, black people tonight, people of African descent tonight, the majority we are in the majority on this island of Tobago. We have some work to do. Freedom is not a destination, but it is a journey. And as we continue on this journey, let's hold each other's hand. Let's walk side by side and ensure we pull each other up and ensure that our children will be more successful than we are. And certainly, we will all be more successful and a lot more free than we were 188 years ago. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chief Secretary. Let's hear it for him, please. That freedom is not a destination, it's a journey. Statement that we need to remember as we interact with our families at home, in the workplace. That message, that signal should be sent from each and every one of us here this evening. Thank you very much, the Chief said. It's midnight. What does the DJ have in store for us at midnight?
Cordially invites you.
Do you have a special tune for us at midnight, Mr. DJ? Freedom come. Does Roxborough folk performers have a song for us? Midnight. We are treated with the voice of Ella Handel. Very fitting. A Shango rhythm, a Shango tune from Ella Handel.
Shango Mojuba ele waloba kuso Amabu Shango ye Amabu Shango ye Amabu Shango ye Amabu Shango
Freedom is here.
Amabu Shango
Freedom is here.
Amabu Shango ye
Freedom is here. Dance to the rhythm. Dance to the sound of the drum. At this time, slaves celebrated. At this time, shackles were put aside as the slaves journeyed through the streets, singing, celebrating, and we have three dancers up front doing some moves. We have some dancers up front dancing to the Irish rhythm. What a wonderful midnight it was. 188 years ago. This was the sound of freedom. This time, I know some of you on the streets. Earlier I read the list of estates in Tobago and the number of slaves that were freed thereon in 1832. This inventory was directed by the Crown in order to compensate owners for freeing slaves from bondage on the 1st of August 1834. The plantation owners were paid £233,000 sterling in compensation. At emancipation, there were 11,500 slaves in Tobago. And this list was given to me by Mr. Bacchus, who lives in the UK. This was researched in the library